Good afternoon, my Redemption Press University's friends. Have something wonderful for you today. Actually, we have someone wonderful for you today. I know that many of you have had burning questions about websites and all thing websites, and I know none of the things. Well, maybe I know a smidge, but I don't know that much. But I do know someone who does. And I am thrilled to introduce her, along with say, when you go on live, you might want to make sure all notifications and alarms are turned off because hence. I just had a lovely little alarm go off. Hopefully it won't happen again, but you never know with me. So there we go. Back to my dear friend, Angela Driskell. She is, I think she's like, what, our website guru at Redemption Press. She's amazing. And most of you, if you're under contract and you're doing a website, you are working with Angela or you are going to work with Angela and you are in for a huge treat. But she has 20 years of experience in all the things, in branding, in graphic design, in website development. She is the owner and operator of Journey Websites. And as much as she is qualified to talk on the subject of websites, may I also say she is one of the dearest, sweetest people I have ever met. And watching her serve our authors with not only grace, but also with just such care and concern over their messages, their hearts, their lives, has been a privilege to behold. And it's every reason I am grateful to call her my friend. So let's give I guess, live, but we can't hear you, welcome to the amazing Angela Driskell. Hello.
Hey, friend.
We are so happy to have you. Of course, I could sing your praises until the cows came home. So is that a Kansas? I don't know. Is that a Kansas phrase? It kind of sounds like a Kansas phrase.
It could be. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, how about before we jump into the questions that I think we have to thank Michelle Spiano for. She was the one who just dove right in and gave us the questions for today. Is there anything else that you would just say overall? Why is it important for us as authors and speakers to have websites that are professional and easy to use?
Yeah, so that's a great question, of course. So, I mean, first of all, website is your online presence, and social media and all the other outlets that are out there, they all can get to your website, but your website needs to be the hub. And so it's so important to know that every other outlet is going to bring someone to your website. And so you want to make sure that when they get to your website, that it's a great presence and that it's going to be created in a way that is really going to be hitting your audience and really presenting you really well to them.
Isn't she amazing? I told you she was amazing. Oh, and we have Debbie Ashley.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Debbie. We are so glad to have you with us. All right. Well, I will jump. That's right. A virtual hug. Did I tell you she's so sweet? Again. Yes. Sweet. You were sweet, Angela. Okay, so question number 1 from Michelle. And Debbie, if you have one that you would like to be thinking about, I know Angela is totally open to receiving questions on the fly as well. But hey, Shelly Picard, woo-woo! It is a party and a half today. All right, so question number 1. Do you have a checklist of sorts with all your recommendations for what is needed in an existing website?
So I don't have an actual checklist, but I will give you that checklist if I were to create one of what it would say, because there are a lot of things that I really would recommend for a website. And the first thing is that you need to be thinking about what is your purpose of the website. So first of all, like, what is the reason for you to have a website. Who are you and who are you trying to serve? What is the purpose? That's the very first thing, because that's going to then determine everything else that is on the website and how to be able to have it be a good and valuable website for your audience. And so I always say your website should answer very easily the who, what, where, when, why, how of you and your audience. And so your website is meant for both of you. It's not just for you and it's not just for your audience. It's that combination. And so your website needs to be able to answer those questions so they can get to know you very quickly and see if you're someone that's going to be able to help them with however you help people. So that's one piece that's really important to be aware of. The other aspect is that you need to have updated and relevant content that is engaging. And so that's why we typically will recommend that someone has a blog of some sort on their website, even if it's a microblog, just so that way you have new content getting added regularly. So whether you have a podcast, a blog, some type of newsletter, some sort of thing that's getting updated regularly on the website, because that's going to help the search engines to be able to see that you're active and your website is being updated. So then they are more likely to direct people to your website. When it comes to the actual website itself, you think of the navigation bar, and on there, you want to at least have a home, about, some type of service, product, blog, some sort of thing like that of what you're doing. And then also a contact, a way to reach out to you. So you want to have those basic things on there. There's a lot of other pages that are recommended depending on the purpose of your website. So you may have a store, or you may have a speaker kit or a speaker or media kit or a bio page. You may have resources that you provide. There's a lot of other things that you may have on the website, but those essential, the home, about, contact, a blog of some sort, or some type of updated content services, those types of pieces are really important to be able to have on there in order to make sure that that content is updated regularly. You do want to make sure that the navigation is really easy to navigate. So sometimes people get too creative with that. I've seen people, because I'm creative also, and I get it. I get the idea that you want to be, oh, I don't want to just have it say about or contact. That's boring. Or blog. That's boring. But if you think about it, there's a reason why so many websites have those words, because when someone is on your website and they're looking for that thing, they are looking for that word. So you want to make it easy for them to get there. Then when they're on the page, you can have a creative heading on the page, but let them get there easily. So that's a big piece that I think some people trip up on. They try to be too creative for their own good with that.
Okay.
Some other parts that are just really important to be aware of is your performance. So the website speed. You want to make sure that it is loading quickly, and there's some different things that can be done. So if you have an existing website, you do want to be looking at how fast does it load on a phone versus on a computer. And I know we're going to talk a bit about phones in a bit, but how fast does it load? Does it take a long time? Because people are not going to sit there and wait for your website to load. And so you really want to make sure that it is loading quickly for the users. You also want to make sure that the search engines have information about your website so it can get your website in front of more people. And so that's called SEO, search engine optimization. And so if you're not familiar with that yet, it is something to learn more about, because it is a way for you to tell the search engines, hey, my website or this blog post or this page is about this. So that way the search engine then knows when someone is searching for that type of content, oh, this website is about that. So it's very important for them to know that. Again, with SEO, one of the things that people get confused about also is that they will have these really long links for their blog posts or for their content, and the links that don't make any sense at all, they have like numbers and weird stuff in there. Don't do that. Make sure that the links are as simple and clean as possible. So if your blog post is about puppies, then your link should be, puppy post or something like that, to make it very clear that's what this is about. Like, you just want to make sure that it's very clear and obvious for people. The other thing I'll just make sure to mention is security. So especially nowadays, hacks, malicious content, malicious attacks, all of those things are real. And so you want to make sure that your website is living somewhere where it's safe and secure. and also where it's being updated regularly and being secure. So that way you aren't as prone to getting an attack. And if something were to happen, you have a backup to be able to fix that if anything were to go wrong. So those are some of the things that I'll say. Overall, when you have a website, those are the critical things to be thinking about in order to make sure that your website is going to be safe, secure, and a great place for your audience to be able to get whatever information you're there to provide them.
I love that. And I love this concept of you really want to make it user friendly. I think, I was laughing and pointing at myself that I think as creatives, we really want to show off, I guess. I don't know what it is we're trying to do, but that simplicity of just thinking, what do I look for in a website? Why do I click, on something? It's because it's clear and it cuts through all that noise that is everywhere, all over the place for us. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I love it. Love it. Okay. So what kind of legal disclaimers do we need to include, or what kind of legal considerations do we need to keep in mind when we're putting together our website?
Yeah, this was a tricky question. So, because whenever you get into legal stuff, it's always a little bit more tricky. But really, the question, I'm going to almost put it back on to the audience, which is what is on your website and what is the purpose of your website? Those things are going to help you decide what are the legal disclaimers that you may need on your website. And so what I mean by that is your website one that is tracking data? So that's just a very, very basic thing that happens where you're tracking data on the website. So are you doing analytics or other type of data tracking that's on there? Are you doing any other types of testing on there? Like there's some plugins and tools that allow you to do an A and B testing for users. And if you're doing some of those types of things, you may need a different type of disclaimer related specifically to some of those different pieces. If you have a store, then you need to also be thinking about return policies and other types of policies related to payment processing and everything else that's on there. So there's a lot of pieces that can be involved in that. The other thing is, where is your audience and where are you? So what happens for the legal side of things, and we'll talk about this with some other things too, is that it depends what state you're in. And if you're in the United States, what state you're in specifically, because if you're in California, there's a lot more requirements for you than any other state legally on the type of disclaimers you have to have on your website. If you are in any other state, then you might not have to. But if you have an audience specifically in California, then you have to adhere to those things as well. The other thing is if your website is reaching Europe, then there's a whole side of things related to Europe that you have to be addressing and focused on as well, just because of their compliance that they require there. And so it really matters where you are and where your audience is in order to make sure that your website is compliant. And so some of the most common pieces of compliance and forms that I will see that people will add is like a privacy policy, a terms of service, potentially like a cookie policy, which we'll talk about cookies in a bit as well, a refund or a return policy. So again, if you have a store, that refund or returns, affiliate disclosures. Do you have any affiliate links on your website? Then you need to have a special disclosure specifically to that. And then also, if you do anything where you're giving medical guidance in any way, even if it's like, you should drink lots of water. I mean, those types of things can even be something that you might want to have a disclaimer saying, I'm not a doctor. This is just my recommendation. And so those are some of the things that I've seen that people will add to their website in order to make sure to kind of cover their tails in order to have those different pieces on there. And so you can't go wrong with having the different policies on there. Like you can't go wrong. And a lot of people will say, well, do I have to hire a lawyer? What do I need to do to be able to have the policies? And really, there's a lot of free services online that will provide templates for you to be able to use for any of those different legal disclaimers that you need. Also, a lot of people will go to someone else's website. They will view their policies because they probably got their policy from some other template out there too. And if you need to, you could literally like reach out to that person, be like, are you okay if I copy this? And then just change the information to mine. Most people will be like, sure, I grabbed it from someone else too. And I didn't even ask permission. I mean, most likely is the case. So I would recommend doing something like that, but there is free, if you just look up, like, say you wanted to do a privacy policy, free privacy policy for my website, for a blogger, for an author, for a, whatever it may be. And then you could grab that and then tweak the information on it, and then you at least have it.
So good. So good. And again, with legal disclaimers, we get questions like that surrounding other areas as project managers. And the reality is, if there is a disclaimer out there, it means that somebody got in trouble for doing it once. Does it happen? The answer is yes, because there is a disclaimer. So, all right, question number 3. I see a lot of websites that have the cookie notice pop up and the user needs to acknowledge cookie settings. Is that something we need to be concerned with? And if so, how do we address the cookie settings on our website?
Yeah, so that's such a great question, and it's completely related to the last one with those legal aspects. And so I'm happy they were in this order, just because it really does make sense. You first want to think about all the legal aspects of what policies you may need to have. And part of that was, what type of information are you tracking on your website? So a cookie policy is all about the data that you are collecting from the user on the website. If you are collecting any data about the user on your website, so if you are doing any type of tracking, whether it's even Google Analytics tracking, because that does track the user, it tells you their device, it tells you location, it tells you a lot of stuff. And so if you are doing any of that, then technically, yes, you need to have a cookie policy on your website. It would be recommended to have it, is what I'll say. Where it is required to have it is if you are in Europe, if you are in California, or if your users are in Europe or California. So again, you don't know, and you hope to have your website most likely reach a vast audience. And if that's the case, then it's good to just have the cookie policy, even if you're not in those locations, in order to make sure that the cookie policy is there and you do have the cookie settings up. Depending on where your website is hosted and what type of website you have, we work predominantly with WordPress. So I could speak for WordPress, but I know the other sites out there also have these types of options. There are plugins for WordPress that are for cookie policies. And so you literally install that plugin, it gives you a couple little options, and boom, you have it. It's really easy. Most of them even have the privacy policy and the terms of service that go along with it. So a lot of times they'll have all of that. And then they'll have the options if someone's going to select to keep the cookies or accept all, or whatever options you want to have on for them will be the options inside of that. So other website platforms typically will have an option. Do you want to have a cookie palette or a cookie pop-up or a cookie banner across the bottom? What do you want to have on your website in order to make sure that you're safe with it?
I do want a cookie, Angela, but it's not the kind we're talking about. So
We want cookies. Let's go make cookies after this, Sarah.
Okay, I'm sold. Sorry, y'all. We're done with questions. We're gonna go make some cookies. All right. I guess I'll get back on track. Question number 4. Is there a way to make sure my website will look good on both desktop and mobile, and which view should take precedence? I guess that was question 4 and 5.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's kind of 2. Yeah. So the majority of people will view your website on their phone. That's a reality nowadays. So I do say that taking precedence on the phone, mobile, is going to be the most important thing. But I say that with the caveat that you need to make sure that your desktop version of your website looks good. Like, do not only do it for mobile, and when you pull it up on a desktop, it just looks all like this white space and all wonky and huge things, and it just does not look good. I've seen that a lot. So you want to make sure that it really looks good on all devices. And so it's a great question about how do you make sure that it's good on the different devices. Personally, when our team is going through and building a website and we're in the final stage, so I recommend, first of all, if you're new and you're developing a brand new website and you don't have your website live yet, don't worry about doing responsive testing on the website yet. Once you're to the place that you're ready for the website to go live, then I recommend sitting down and have your phone up, have your computer up, like on the website builder that you're using, and have, even if you have a tablet, have that up, or have another window of your browser open in a smaller window where it would be like a tablet size. And if you do that, you could then click through like your website on the different devices and look at it. How does it look on those devices? Because one thing I often see is if you were to shrink the window of the website, so say from a large desktop to then like a smaller laptop or even a little bit smaller, then all of a sudden the menus break and weird things happen. Like there's giant white space and like there's just a lot that go on with that when it's going through that the responding change of the page size. And so I recommend playing with your website and going through the pages one by one, top to bottom, and using it on all the devices. And as you see an issue on your phone, then immediately make the change on your computer, because inside, depending on your website platform, I know WordPress specifically, there's options where you could select to alter your text size or your box size or any of the different things based off of the responsiveness. So you could say on a desktop, I want it to be this size. On a tablet, I want it to be this size. And on a phone, I want it to be this size. There also is what's called a responsive breakpoint. And that's the other thing that's important to know. And that's basically the point when it breaks to the next responsive level. So when I was talking about a desktop screen and you're moving it in and out, when the menu breaks and it's now going to a second line as opposed to the 3 lines for like a responsive menu type of thing, then you know that this menu is not responding well and your responsive breakpoint. So let's just say your breakpoint is supposed to be 1200 pixels as an example. At 1200 pixels, it's supposed to switch to a tablet is what it's telling devices as an example. If that breakpoint is not set correctly, then you're going to not have it actually responding on a mobile device or on a tablet. And so there is settings for that too. So depending on what tool you're using, the setting might be different. But the trick that I always say for people is first, pull it up on the 3 devices or 2 devices, and especially with your phone, click through each page like a user using it on your phone and immediately make the changes on the computer. And if you're unsure how to do it, Google's your friend for that. So if you're unsure how to make some of those changes, Google's your friend. Of course, Journey, like we're always here to help you as well. But you can definitely Google and say, how do I change XYZ in this theme or in this platform or whatever it is? And you'll probably find something that's going to give you a hint on the platform that you're using on how to fix the issue that you're seeing.
You're so brilliant. Star. Oh, Shelly wants to come and make cookies with us. Yes.
Yes, you're invited.
Absolutely. Debbie, if you want to come as well, we are full service here. You get your knowledge and you get cookies. Okay. As you were talking, I thought I had something come to mind that I've had questions about. And maybe it's more my own curiosity, but how do you see websites and function kind of change and grow? Let's say as somebody gains more and more experience, has more to offer, more books on their website, what do you kind of see as needs changing and evolving based on experience and basically years of being an author and a speaker?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I like to say that your website's on a journey, just like you're on a journey. So you're personally on a journey, your business or ministry is on a journey, and your website is on a journey. And so it is going to, and it should change and grow with you as you go. It should not be static. It should not stay the same. And so just as you're growing and changing, so will your website. And so I've seen people, like when we talked about those pages to begin with, you may start out with those basic pages, and then all of a sudden you have a lot, and now your menu is like huge, and you're like, okay, I can't fit anymore. Like there's too much on my menu. So then you have to kind of rethink, okay, what am I focusing on? What is my audience looking for on my website? And then you want to make sure that I call it a content journey. And so when someone is on your website and they're looking for a certain piece of content, you need to make that journey to get from when they first get to your website to whatever content they're looking for easy. So whether it's through the navigation or through the homepage, you want to make it very easy for them to get to what it is that they're trying to accomplish on your website. So if you've now grown and evolved over time, and now you have this big speaking ministry, and maybe you're not blogging as much, or maybe you're wanting to spotlight different resources that you have now, whether it's books or different things, then the pages on your menu, first of all, may change. Your homepage will definitely change, and what you have on those pages will also change. So you may end up having some sub menus that happen because of that as well. Your wording is going to change because you don't want to overwhelm people where there's so much that they don't even know what they're looking at. You want to help guide them. So again, the content journey is helping to guide them. So if most of your audience, or if your sweet spot that you're focusing on right now is speaking or is your books, then you want to make sure when someone first gets to your website, they're going to easily find that information right away and be able to get there quickly and then make an action, whatever that action is. So whether it's signing up for a lead magnet that you're going to have, so that way you've captured their data and now you're able to connect with them and they get this free thing, whether it's purchasing a book, whether it's purchasing a service or coaching or whatever it may be, you want to make sure that's easy for them to be able to get to as quick as possible. So there's always going to be reworking on your website as you grow. And that also means when you're starting out, do not compare yourself with someone else that is so far along their journey. Just don't, because everyone started out somewhere and you're starting out where you are, and that is okay. That is great. Don't worry about all the extra pages. You could start honestly with a landing page, and literally the tabs I mentioned before, the home, about, and contact, could be all on there, and they're all part of your landing page, literally just going down to that section. And then as your about page gets bigger, now it becomes its own page. Like, it's okay to do it that way. You don't need to start with all the bells and whistles, and you could grow over time, and you should make those changes over time.
That's the perfect answer and exactly what I was looking for. Do we have any questions from our cookie party connoisseurs? I don't even think that was the right word, but it's fancy and it sounded good. So anything from Shelley or from Debbie? I don't see the names of the other folks that have joined us, but okay, let me think if there's any one last question that I have for you. We're talking here we go. We are talking, I think, and this is sad because I'm coaching this. So you might learn a lot more today than you will learn on your coaching session on Saturday from me. But we are going to be talking about pages and book pages. What would be your number one piece of advice for the about page? I know that, typically you like to see some kind of shorter bio. What does the about page provide that maybe the shorter bio really doesn't for your reader or for your audience?
Yeah, that is such a great question. The about page is your audience's chance to really get to know you. And so, what is the personality that you are trying to portray to your audience? So that's going to be first part of it, because your about pages needs to be able to show that information. So some people, their about page is going to have a more professional feel. It's going to have a very professional bio, and it's going to have all the accolades of what they've accomplished and those types of things. And then maybe a link to a speaker kit or some type of other piece of information. Sometimes that about page will also have headshots if they don't fully have a speaker page or another page like a media kit, then they might have some of those pieces on there. My recommendation, and I think this is just kind of where my personality is for the most part, is that I say make your about page fun. Let them get to know you. If they want to, let them feel who you are. Let them understand who you are. And so I like for about pages to be a little bit more fun. Yes, you can have the professional bio on there, and then you can have more of the history. Some people will share their testimony. Some people will have the fun little questions like, what's your favorite coffee, or what's your favorite cookie, or whatever those things are. Some people will have some of those different fun things. People will share photos on there, little fun facts, sometimes some testimonials as well. And so those are some different pieces that I think really help someone to really get to know you, because right now you're just a screen to them. And so you want to bring life through. And so if you could do a video, that's even better. Like, having a video on there is great as well. All of those different pieces, but anything in order to make sure that when they are on that page, they're getting a feel for who you really are. And that if they were to meet you at a coffee shop, they're going to be like, oh yeah, like totally, like this is totally her, or this is totally him, like
Mhm.
this is them. Like that's how you want it to be, is you want it to feel very authentic to who you are.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think at least as I am growing as a speaker, as an author, as somebody who is communicating a message. Oh, and we do have another question, so I won't blather on a whole lot. But I think we're definitely in a time period where people value knowing who you are. And that's why on social media, they want to see personal things as well as memes and all of that. They want to get a sense of who you are. And that authenticity, I think, is so important across the board. All
Mhm.
right. Debbie says, any thoughts on selling products on a personal website, but using an outside tool such as Square, Shopify, or Etsy?
Yeah. So there's pluses and minuses to doing that. I like to say whenever possible to do it on your own website, because again, that is bringing the traffic to your website. It's going to help your search engine optimization. It's going to also allow them to be able to know about other things that you provide. And so, like whether it's cross selling or whether it's them being able to know, oh, you also have this resource that's a free resource that's a download, or other things that you may provide on there. So the website can normally have the store and any type of way to be able to check out on the website itself. So that is always my first recommendation. It is, and that is because of the comfort and security that will also provide for the user. So when the user is on your website and they have something that they want to purchase, it feels sometimes a little bit weird when all of a sudden they're going somewhere else and they're like, and then they can't always get back. Like that's one of the other issues I see, is they get somewhere else to buy it and then they're just lost there and they can't get back to wherever they were first. But if for some reason budget constraints are there where you cannot have a store of some sort on your own website, and then there are reasons that you could do some of those other tools. The first one I would say is when you mentioned Square as one of those. Square or Stripe or PayPal allow you to even have product buttons that could be embedded onto your website. So you still could actually have that on your website, but have all processing and not have a real store on your website, but have it look like it's a store on your website, but really it's all processing through that payment processor. So you could do that too, or you could link them to that product on the third party website. So like Square, PayPal, or Stripe, where they could check out right there on there. When it comes to Shopify, I would say that would be if you're having a lot of different products and for whatever reason you can't do it within your existing website. So maybe you're on Wix or Squarespace or something like that, and you're finding restrictions on the package that you're on, that you'd have to pay a lot more. Sometimes there's a reason people will consider doing a separate store, but I typically don't recommend it, because you're going to now be paying two different things and you're duplicating stuff a lot of times. Etsy, that's its own little baby. I could see reasons to doing Etsy, only because if you have something that is going to get in front of more people that are in the Etsy world that are trying to buy handmade items or different things like that through Etsy, you might have more items that are going to get in front of people there. But I would still have the storefront on your website too. Like that would be an addition. I would have both of them if possible. But if you only could have the one, and it had to be Etsy because you want to, the type of product that you're selling makes sense for Etsy, then that could be a valid thing. And then on your website, you would link over to your Etsy area and then they would be able to see it. But again, once they go there, who knows if they're going to shop with you or shop with anyone else, and they're not going to get back to your website from there either. So that's just something to consider. But there is some valid reasons for some of those different pieces for sure. I hope that answers your question, Debbie.
Oh, I think that was fabulous. But again, what do I know? Clearly not a whole lot. So here's a question for you. Let's say somebody decides they just don't want to mess with having their own inventory, collecting their own sales. What is your recommendation? Like, for example, my book, my publisher recommended that I have a button to every outlet.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on that? And what would you recommend?
Oh, man. That's a hard one because I've seen people do it both ways. I've seen people, and you said if they didn't want to have it on their own website,
Yeah, if they didn't.
don't want to. Yeah. So then I would say, first of all, what is the publisher or area where your book is being sold, where you're getting the most profit of that sale? That would be one consideration I would first think of, because you want to make sure that you're going to be actually getting as much as possible from that. The second consideration is, what is the easiest one for the user as well? And so that's why some people will end up having those different ones like Amazon and those different things out there, just because it's so easy and someone already has an account and it's just really easy for them to quickly buy. So I could see the benefits of having the different ones. I don't know that I've seen too many issues when someone has numerous ones on there, where they say you could buy my book at, and then there's a link to all the different places, because for the user, you're giving them the option. I will also say that I have seen some, and when I say smaller, I don't mean smaller like you don't have a great audience or anything, but smaller, newer authors who they're like, look, this is my first book and I need to be able to make what I can make off of it because it's my first little thing and I spent a lot of money on this thing. It's okay to also put a little note on there, like the preferred avenue is to buy it this way, but if not, here are the others. So make that button big and then have your other alternate options a little bit smaller, but they're there. So that way, if it's easier for them, you're still getting the book sold. So that's kind of the way I look at that piece for people.
That's awesome. And for those of you who are Redemption Press authors, which all of you pretty much are, that would mean when she's talking about maximizing your profit, you would want to direct people to the Redemption Press website, because you're going to earn the most money, whether you're highlighting the Redemption Press website or you're featuring that by itself. So great answers. Oh, Carrie Roberts. Do you have a question? Maybe, yes, or are you just announcing that you are here? We are so happy you are here, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
If there are no other questions, though, Angela and I are going to go make some cookies. So I will see if Carrie pops in with something. And let me see, is there any other question I can think of?
So
uncertain, we are without power. So, okay. So go ahead, Miss Angela.
Yeah. So one thing that I was just going to say is that we do free consultations for anyone that wants to be able to talk with us. And that could be that you're looking for a new website or that you have questions on your existing website. I've done website audits before and given advice, free advice on, hey, this is what I would recommend changing and doing to improve your existing website. So if there are questions that we weren't able to answer here, you could always do that. And Sarah could put the link with it, but it's just connect.journeywebsites.com. And then if you connect with us, you'll schedule a consultation with me and I could answer your questions or review your website or your specific situation and help you out with it. So it's not where you have to then work with Journey. It's just something that I like to be able to do. I love the Redemption Press family, love being able to help writers and speakers, and love being able to help you move forward on your journey. And so whatever we can do to be able to help you, especially because technology just gets tricky and confusing. And so sometimes it's domain questions or email questions or whatever it may be, we're happy to help.
Oh, okay. It's connect.journey.org. Is that right?
No, to connect.journeywebsites.com. You got that all wrong, Sarah.
I did. Okay. Connect at journey.
.journeywebsites.com.
You know what? I'm going to get that from Angela and I will post it on I think it's safer. I think this is why we need people like Angela in our lives and specifically in mine. So Angela, thank you so much for always bringing us everything that we need and even then some. So we adore you and we are so happy to be on this journey with you. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, y'all. We love you. We're making cookies. We encourage you to do the same.